Safe and inclusive. It's that blanket term we hear getting used all the time when it comes to gender ideology policies that seem to be sweeping every corner of our child's education. But how safe and inclusive is it for a public school to block off all sex based washrooms and only allow children to use gender neutral ones? That's the scene that recently unfolded in Pleasant Valley Secondary in Armstrong, BC, and it was immediately faced with some backlash, not just from students, but some parents as well. I'm Drea Humphrey with Rebel News, and today I interview some of those parents to bring you the other side to this story. Well, we have two parents with us who have been fighting for safety in their children's bathrooms. Thank you so much, Jolene and Josh, for joining Rebel News.
Thank you for having us.
Now, this is a bit of a nutty story that's taken some twists and turns along the way. Let's start with when you first found out from your daughter what was going on last week.
Okay, so on Thursday, she came home from school and we picked her up from the bus. We live out of town, so her bus ride home is about 40 minutes. So at 20 after 4, she came running in the house. She ran right into the washroom and we thought maybe she was sick. So when she came out, we asked her, like, is there something wrong? And she said, no, but I really had to go to the washroom. So we asked her, why didn't you go to the washroom at school? She said, because now all of our girls' washrooms are locked. The boys' washrooms are locked and we all have to go into the gender neutral washrooms. And I didn't want to do it. And I'm like, well, what do you mean you didn't want to do it? She said, well, I tried to go, but when I went in there, there was a group of boys and they were at the sinks and they were at the toilet and I just couldn't go in there.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, like this is kind of a shocker. We had no idea Thursday morning this was going to happen. They did check all 3 of the girls' washrooms to see if they were locked and they were locked. So Josh and I thought, well, we got to come up with a solution. So we talked to her about the buddy system, about going with 2 or 3 girls, having them stand outside the stall while they use the washroom. She said she'd give it a try. So on Friday, we were in a meeting and we started getting phone calls from her. So Josh left the meeting and he went and he took the call and she was in tears. And he was like, what is going on? And she's like, well, I was in the washroom. When I went in at lunch, it was empty. So I thought I'd be safe to use it. And a group of boys came in. There was probably about 5 or 6 different voices I heard, and they were banging on the doors. At first, they started down the section of doors until they hit hers. And then they started pounding on it really, really hard. She said she got really scared and she said she could see like light coming through the door. And she said she never pulled her pants up so fast. I asked her, did you actually finish going to the washroom? She said, I don't really think so. So she ripped her pants up. She was crying. And she said, I didn't know what to do. So I started text messaging my friends to come and get me out of the bathroom stall because I'm scared. So we drove to the school and we went in and we gave her a hug and we told her we're going to go talk to the vice principal about this. In the morning, we did start phoning the school board and the school to find out what was going on with these washrooms. We did call on Thursday night, but they were already closed by the time she got off the bus. So we phoned 3 times and left a message.
3 messages for the vice principal.
Mr. Maltese.
Phoned the board office. The secretary of the board office said, well, this is a school matter, so you have to phone the school. So I didn't feel it was just a straight up school matter, something of this caliber myself. But so we tried to phone the school again. His voicemail box was full because I think I phoned a total of on Friday from 8 o'clock till noon. I believe I phoned 6 times.
So when we got to the school, we thought we're going to go into the office. So we walked in the office. Josh told the secretary exactly what we were there for. We asked for Mr. Maltese. One of the other students came in and said, I went and told him in the gym that you guys are here. So we waited about 10 minutes and then he came. we told them, like, we have an issue with these washrooms. Like, these girls and boys shouldn't have came to school today and their washrooms are locked. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really know what happened here, but we need to have a discussion about it. So he brought us in the office. We sat down with them. And our daughter had told them after that happened in the washroom. She went to the vice principal with a group of girls. They voiced their concerns with them. They gave a couple solutions about opening up one of each of the washrooms that is in the same area as the office and the new gender neutral washroom. And he told her that it was a trial, and that they would have to learn to adapt.
Wow.
She asked, there anywhere else we can go to the washroom? And he basically told her no. So when she had told us this before the meeting with Mr. Maltese, she used the word experiment. So when I was in the office with Mr. Maltese, I called it an experiment. I said, you told our daughter that this is an experiment and that she has to adapt. And he said, well, I didn't say experiment. I said a trial.
Experiments run trials. That's what you do in an experiment.
Right? It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Experimenting with our children, I do not feel is right. I don't think girls and boys should be forced to go into the same washroom. I believe every child has the right to feel safe going in a washroom. I don't believe it's fair for a child to have me going into that group washroom and using the washroom either. Like, I don't think that we should be in there. I know when I would go into the girls' washroom at the school, the girls didn't have a problem with a female adult being in there. I'm sure that they have an issue with a adult male being in there with them. I brought all of this up with the principal. Josh brought this up with the vice principal. We literally left so frustrated. We asked about
no answers, no solutions, no, not even close to a solution. Just pretty much in a roundabout way, this is how it is, deal with it.
I'm going to read the district's rules for when it comes to bathrooms, because I think that they clearly are even going against the SOGI policy that they have here. This came out a few years ago. It says that all students have the right to safe washrooms and change room facilities. Students have the right to use the washroom and change room in which they are most comfortable. Alternative options include, but are not limited to, and then they have the gender-free single use as an alternative. So they got rid of all of the primaries, and they're saying it doesn't matter that you don't feel safe, adapt. And now they've backpedaled after that. So let's talk a little bit about the backpedal. They've sent an email, I guess it is, out to the parents, and we should note that you certainly didn't get any notification that, hey, there's something wrong with the bathrooms, just to let you know, it won't be long or something like that beforehand. But now you get this message that is admitting basically that they've had a lot of inquiries, we will say, about this. And it says that they have, some of it has been positive and some not. And they are claiming now that the primary objective to this change was increased supervision of our washrooms and not the gender neutrality associated with the new layout. But here you have your daughter, you know, building up the courage to use the washroom and being harassed by male students, you know, worst case scenario. And somehow this is happening under this greater supervision. So what do you make of that narrative that's come out after some backlash?
I don't agree with this reasoning. Like, they're not thinking about the safety of all the students. We all know there's bad kids in school. We all know that you have kids that are going to do things that are going to get them in trouble. But it seems to be there's no consequences for these children. It seems like they can get away with whatever they want to do. And I feel like the supervision isn't being done in the washrooms, period. I'm not opposed to having these washrooms opened. They did give us one washroom each for the girls and the boys. It is in the new gym, which is the new washrooms that do not have a door. They have a 7-foot gap that you can see clearly into the sinks. And then they have 7 stalls and they have a handicap bathroom.
And from as a walking by, you can see down the aisle. So if somebody kicked one of the bathroom doors open, somebody walking down the hallway, you can still see it.
And correct me if I'm wrong, these bathrooms are more out of the way for most of the students, right? Like it's a further stretch to get to the bathrooms. And so they have all of this prime real estate for bathroom when you're leaving class, going to
They
this
have to walk
gender.
by 3, I believe there's 3 girls' bathrooms in the main school and 2 boys, I believe. So they have to walk by 5 bathrooms to go to 1 bathroom.
Let's talk about for a minute what you know about how many students in this high school are identifying as trans or non-binary. Do you know anything about that?
A rough estimate from what we've been told is approximately 12 to 15%.
And who did you hear that from?
From the students, because unfortunately the school doesn't want to.
They won't tell us. They don't even return phone calls. So how are you going to tell you?
Last I checked, I believe it was probably a couple of years ago, the Canadian average is 0.33 to 38%.
I don't think it's very much.
I don't think it's that high, but that's what the students were feeling. Like,
well,
I mean,
and there are some high schools where it is quite a bit higher than the national average, which makes you think, what is going on? I know in New West, we have one that's much higher. Now, let's talk about what you actually heard when you finally heard back. I believe it was from the superintendent.
Yeah. Finally today, after, like I say, phoning multiple times a day, emails, I believe it was 4:30. Somewhere around there, I finally got a phone call back from the superintendent, and she pretty much roundabout answered every question I asked her. She felt that I was being a little bit outrageous on saying that boys and girls shouldn't be in the same bathroom. She said,
"How dare you? So much bigotry."
Her words were, "You have a problem with a boy and a girl washing their hands side by each in the sink." And I said, yes, I do. Because what if that girl had an accident or she had her menstrual cycle and she has blood on her hands? Do you think a 13 to 18-year-old girl is going to feel comfortable washing her hands beside some boy? I guess it's not a very big school, but not every kid knows each other. It's not like they're all best friends. And that, to me, a washroom is a private place. And then she kept referring these style washrooms to the washroom in her house. She said, so if you have family or company over, do you designate one washroom for the boys and one for the girls?
Well, I am sorry you were talked down to by the superintendent. Obviously, we have control over who uses our own bathroom, and they're not usually using it. If you have a visitor, they're certainly not using it with your child. So
no, for multiple people, you go one at a time.
It's outrageous.
And then you guys tell me that is the new normal. You go to a gas station, you go to a restaurant, you go to the mall. The last time I was in the mall or any restaurants in town, there was still male and female and then family, but they were a total different setup. You can't walk, you're not walking by the hallway and seeing into this room.
And when we hear that word new normal, it's new normal from whom? I have covered how different municipalities are forcing that on business owners, and the business owners don't even want it. And it should be pointed that I'm also aware that there are teenage boys who don't want to share a room with the girls either. But it does sound like
both ways.
Yeah, it goes both ways. But it certainly sounds like you guys have pushed back against this new normal effectively. I know that you've shared that some people wanted to but couldn't because they're worried about their jobs, etc. We are very used to that. Your daughter and some friends have taken a stand. They even put up the photos we're showing here right now where they said, we want our space, we want our protected space. I understand it was taken down and then some other students put it up. So they are hearing loud and clear that at least I would say the majority are wanting common sense to return. Thank you guys so much for sharing this story. We will keep up with it. Let us know if there's anything else we should tell the public. if you still have common sense and it's obvious that if something isn't working right with the bathrooms, not all the sex based ones should be shut down, and you're not buying that, go to our special website called stopclassroomgrooming.com and sign and share our petition there to demand that innocence return to our children's education. And while you're there, you can also donate what you can to keep our reports going strong.